I remember days they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my records talking casually. Used to say it was a passion on my path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. Had jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of knowings. I could see now in public and that may think a lot of things. Man, at least think something, now you the judge. Hey, now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Back in my feelings, look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and I don't blame you for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could wait this to greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't ever think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie, whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, it's go better and better, but I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to That One Podcast. We're here doing the Tampa St. Pete takeover. We're actually in Clearwater. Shout out to Jet and his team at Devotion Studios. And we're here today with a special guest. I got Kinz back, by the way. The last episode, she was MIA. But we got you back. We found you.
And I'm back. And I'm so thrilled that I am, because today is a big show.
Yeah, I'd done a lot of episodes by myself, so I was okay. But there was something missing, definitely. So we're glad to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Today we have Dr. Monisha Bhanote with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so blessed to have figured out relationships, because the Lollies, shout out to Anthony and Teresa as well. They're doing amazing work. Biohackyourself.com. They're doing amazing work with SHIELD, which is, for those that don't know, it's She Healed, but it's SHIELD documentary. And I was talking to them about coming down here, and they were like, oh, you have some people to introduce you to. And that's how we got to meet. So relationships are everything.
Absolutely. You know? And I'm grateful to the Lollies for putting together SHIELD. It's going to be an amazing documentary about women's health from conception to postmenopause. And I think it's really going to change the trajectory of women's health. So allowing women to really understand what they can do to take care of their body.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. Timing is everything, right? And we have the MAHA movement. Politics aside, put all that to the side. America needs to be healthier. Mm-hmm. And for what you've done, you've been doing this for how long now?
Almost 3 decades. I've been doing this for a long time.
Has there been a better promotional period as far as timing goes for this than now? I
think it's now or never.
Yeah.
When it comes to making America healthy again, or making America healthy always, it's now or never, because we're really at this place where if we don't make a change in the way we take care of our bodies, the healthcare system, we're not going to see a country that exists in any form in the way we want it to.
When was your passion for health and being an advocate, and you really wanted to make a difference? When was that birthed? From a young age, or when did you really decide that you're going to make this your mission?
Well, I'm still working on that.
Yeah, we all
it's an evolution in what you do, and coming as a first generation immigrant to the U.S., it was you get to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. You know, there's a lot of pressure in what you get to do. And so for me, I was both pre-med, pre-law. I didn't like reading. We had this conversation earlier. I'm like, oh, this is too much reading. Let's go with the pictures, because in med school, there's a lot of pictures and images. And I'm like, oh, I think I can do this. And it just came very naturally and easy to me. So I went down that path. But what I quickly realized in my training was that, oh, healthcare is not what I thought it was. And now, mind you, this is in the 90s. I'm like, what's going on here?
What did you think it was?
Well, I thought it was, all right, you're a doctor, you learn all this stuff and you help people. And now by helping them with what I was taught, they should be getting better. But that's not what was going on. And I'm like, something's really missing here. And, seeing the same patients again and again in a clinic, and I'm prescribing them the medications, and they should be working and they're not. And so that's where my mission kind of shifted from becoming a what I call somewhat of a drug dealer to more of a fruit and veggie dealer, and really looking at lifestyle. Yeah. And So I transitioned into what, many people probably aren't familiar with. It's really being a doctor's doctor, where I have the answers for what's going on in the human body, down to the microscopic level, really. And then I'm like, oh, it's really all our lifestyle. Now, what if people actually knew about that? Would they use the information to make changes, or would they not? At the end of the day, it's your choice.
Yeah.
But I think if people actually knew that their health was in their hands, they would take another look at it.
Yeah. When I look at this, it seems overwhelming to the average person, right? So there's so much now, and especially with social media, it's a good thing because it's everywhere now. But there's like, where do you start kind of thing, right? And that's what I see with a lot of people. Now, I understand, you work on a gradient scale. You just pick something at the foundational level, get your foundation right, and then you build from there. Not everybody knows that. How do you approach that with your clients or patients? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So since I am also in that biohacking space, so this is a great topic to talk about, because how do you effectively make that change? And I think it's exactly that, the foundation, as you mentioned. Some people skip over that foundation of sleep, nutrition, movement, and then get into all these technologies and these pills. And they may work somewhat, but they will work even better if you have that foundation built. It's kind of like you buy a house and you don't go put all the furniture in and all the decorations on the wall and all that until you have that foundation laid. Yeah. The walls are up, the paint is done, and then you go in and start layering things on. And I think that's really the key for anybody on their health journey, is look at what's that one thing that you can do, and then it actually makes a kind of snowball effect. You pick the easiest one. So I know you're a big sports fan, right? Yeah. So when it comes to sports, if you were doing sports in school and then, you got into the work field and you kind of stopped doing it, look at what really made you happy as a younger kid. Start there, start with exercise. And then you're like, oh, you know what? Now how can I make my body even more efficient? Let me see what I'm going to put in as my fuel. How am I going to optimize my sleep so I can have a better workout? So I always say, go back and think, where were you a kid and what made you happiest?
That's a great idea.
Yeah. I love that, because I have children. I have a 2-year-old, and I watch, and they eat when they're hungry. They stop when they're full. And I'm like, that's such an easy concept. If we did more of that, what should people, if they want to start today, right now, start doing and stop doing, if you broke it down? Yeah.
So start doing is really, I would say, prioritize your sleep.
Okay.
Nobody's brain works without sleep. True. Okay. Even, this whole 4 hours of sleep a night and I'm going and doing, no, right. It doesn't. At the end of the day, your body cleans up all the kind of cellular gunk, as we can call it, when you sleep.
Now, does everyone need the same amount? What would you say? Do people need different amounts of sleep? I feel like I honestly need a good 8 to 9 hours. And some people are like, I thrive on 6. But is it different for individuals, or should everyone have a baseline of at least 7?
Well, it'll be different for individuals. Yeah. And I think the key is really figuring out how you feel. It's not just about getting sleep. It's about getting restorative sleep. So when you wake up in the morning, is your mind clear? Do you have your energy for the day? Or are you at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock going and grabbing coffee and crashing, right? So you really want to look at how your body is functioning. And that's really about getting off of autopilot, right? We need to stop, slow down, and go, what is going on today? What do we want to be doing? So sleep is definitely critical. The other key, I think, since we were talking about Maha earlier, is forget about the diet wars. Some people have this opinion on diet. Some people have this opinion. I think every healthcare practitioner can agree we have to remove ultra processed food from our diet. Right. 60% of the food on the shelves it's not real food. It's full of food additives, and our body cannot recognize that. So I think if you can just start there, that's why when people do start cleaning up their diets, they're like, oh, I feel pretty good, because it's the ultra processed food that's slowing down the way your body's working.
Well, wait a minute. So ultra processed food, what does it do when you eat it? You just don't get nutrients from it? Or they're artificial nutrients? Or what is the problem with ultra processed food?
So ultra processed food has additives in it. So it has different kinds of preservatives to really increase shelf life, right? So it's meant to be staying on the shelf for a longer period of time. Some of it's meant as flavorings. It doesn't really have nutrients. So what you're replacing good wholesome food with is they're essentially technical food additives with no nutrients. So then by the time your body reaches a certain age, and I'm seeing it a lot earlier, your body's starving for nutrients. And that's where all these symptoms start coming up. And, you've got all these health issues and things that you're like, oh, but why is this happening? Because people don't connect the food that they're eating to how their body is functioning.
Well, are the labels wrong though? Because some of the labels will say vitamin A, it'll have percentages and it'll say the daily average recommended, whatever. Are they wrong, or the daily average recommendations are wrong? Or because some of them will have nutrients in them, right? Like a box of cereal.
Yeah, no, foods have nutrients in them, like packaged foods. So they'll add vitamin D and they'll add iron and they'll add nutrients. But if you actually look, they're also adding things like polysorbates and red dye number 3 or 40 or yellow, all these different things that our body's going, oh, we're on attack. And you might not feel it in the beginning. Like, most 20-year-olds are still bouncing around like, okay, but come 30, you're like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I don't have the energy. My mind, like I've got brain fog. What's going on? I can't focus.
Right.
And it's really like that cellular effect of the gunk just catching up to you, and you've just been piling it on, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it from a reference point of a car, right? So a car has a certain lifespan. If you take really good care of it, you might have 10 years on a car, right? Maybe even a little bit longer. But you're bringing that car in for maintenance, right? You're getting it detailed, you're getting the oil changed, you're getting the tires, Our body, in a way, I'm not exactly saying it's like a car, but we, instead of giving it all the things it needs, we just layer on like more snow and more ice from the snow,
Salt.
and all the salts and all this stuff, and never really give
Caked
the
up.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking in terms of, we're talking vitamins, it's so confusing now with all the supplements and vitamins and this and that. What really do we need, like baseline? Because it's so confusing when you go into the world of vitamins or, and collagen and this and that. And that. And like, what can we get from food? And should we be actually getting from food? And should we actually go to vitamins? Because I know none of us probably eat the proper amount, a lot of us, I don't, of like fruits and vegetables.
Speak for yourself,
and everything,
Kinz.
spinach.
Speak for yourself.
But I get overwhelmed. I'm like, do I need to be taking 20 vitamins a day, or should I be taking one like ultravitamin, or what's a good guideline?
I think if you would have asked me this 30 years ago, my opinion would have been different.
Okay.
But because our food supply, even if you're getting organic food and you're eating real whole foods, it doesn't have the nutrients it had in the past.
Okay. Interesting.
Supplementation and targeted supplementation, where you're actually doing blood testing to go, all right, my body needs this, is going to be extremely helpful.
And
so
will the body tell you? So I'm always like, am I deficient in this? Do I need this? Well, what are some indicators that our body will tell us if we don't take a blood test?
yeah. So first off is any symptom you're experiencing, from, headaches to digestive issues to skin issues to energy, all of that is your body communicating to you that something is off. And you're not going to know really what ingredient you need until you get blood testing. And I always say test, don't guess, because I consider supplementation just like medication, right? You don't want too much of it, because now this is where you create new problems, because you're like, oh, somebody told me to go take that green powder and I did it. But the nutrients weren't balanced because you actually were getting them from your diet. Or, we're really in this like longevity anti-aging space. So it's like, oh, let me go take this medication that's meant for a diabetic, because now so I always say, do stuff with caution, do it with a provider who actually knows what they're doing. Experimentation can be fun until you mess it up.
Test, don't guess.
Yeah.
Can I talk to the golfers for a second? So the golfers out there that are listening, I know I'm a golfer, so I'll have something wrong with my swing, or the ball will not go where I want it to. And then I'll say, well, maybe I'll just open my stance up a little bit. And then I'll be hitting there, and then something fixes, and then something else is off. And then let me just turn my hand this way a little bit. And then before you know it, everything's out of whack. So it's the same way, golfers, where you're going to go and you're going to go to a swing coach that can diagnose your swing.
Mm-hmm.
And the testing would be them putting you on a video and I forget what they call it. The TrackMan measures your swing speed, your spin on the ball, all this stuff. Right. And then they can diagnose it, and then they can correct the problem the right way. Yeah. But it's all about going back to the foundational things again, too. So one thing I wanted to ask you about was when it comes to the blood test. One, how often? And then also, what should you be getting tested? Like your hormones, everything, or what?
Yeah. So I would say, depending on your age, you definitely want to get a full micronutrient panel once a year at minimum, to make sure your vitamins, minerals, antioxidants are all in the right place. And that's usually done from a blood, plasma, and urine test. I also recommend, because of our food system and food supply, to test your gut microbiome annually. The gut is really the key to your health, whether, you're trying to prevent disease or you're trying to become even like better than you already are. That's going to be your key for your health as you age. So those are the two minimum that I'm like, okay, this should be like an every year. I'm like clockwork, do my testing at the end of December so I can start the year off fresh and know, all right, how did I change? This also allows me to change my supplementation regimen. It allows me to kind of tweak my nutrition, and really look at what's going on, because when you think about it, our cells age. As they age and we use them, how are we going to make new cells? And especially when it comes to like brain cells, like come 30, your brain kind of starts. So we want to make sure we're regenerating and making things for our body so we can keep on top of the game.
If you want to do a reset, so you're like, okay, like I've been having stomach issues, or I'm not able to digest this anymore. Like, what's a proper way to do a reset? Do you believe in fasting, or should we do what's a good way to kind of like jumpstart things, clean everything out, and start again?
Yes. So I do intermittent fasting.
Okay.
So I am a big proponent of intermittent fasting. And I think it's personalized. It's going to depend on the individual, because although I do a regular intermittent fast, like a 16-8, that works beautifully for me. So I'm like, oh, that works great. Let me set up a notch and try something even more extreme. And so I tried a more, fasting mimicking diet, so restricted even further, where it was like 500 to 700 calories a day. I'm like, okay, is this going to clean up all the gunk, and this going to reset my cellular status? And it actually set me off, in a sense that it messed up my metabolism. It disrupted my sleep. And
listen to this, because a lot of, especially in women in particular, like, I just won't eat anything. And then if it's like, then your body will cling on to it. Yeah,
absolutely.
And when your energy falls, and
when your body is starving for nutrients and you remove them critically like that, it doesn't work for everybody. And I think definitely for women, the hormones play a big role in it. Yeah. And so then I'm like, and it took me a few months to reset that. And I'm like, okay, I know the 16-8 works.
Months?
Oh, yes. It was. Yeah. And I was like, what did I just do? And that's what we as biohackers do, right? Yeah. We experiment. We're like, oh, let's try this. Like the science behind it's great. Let's do it. And this is where I think intuition and really following what works for your body and personalizing it. Like, yes, you can use the concept, but really go, all right, how is it going to work best for me?
And when it worked best for you, was it noon to 8 or that you ate, or what was your window, or what was your day like?
I'm a 2 to 7.
2 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what works for me. Okay. Now the fasting mimicking, where it was pretty much like a 12 to 8, but certain calories, my body did not like that. And certain nutrients, it was like, ooh, no, we're starving for, and it kind of threw everything off.
Right. I tried a 72-hour fast one time, because it was like this challenge. You got to be really careful online, because it can pull you in, and you can have FOMO too, right? And everybody was trying this 3 days, right? And I did it the right way with plenty of, electrolytes and water, and black coffee was something I added to it. But I got through, I think, just past 2 days. And I started having these thoughts. My mental game was not on. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Screw this. Yeah. But the whole time I'm talking to myself, like, you could do it. You could do it. Why are you doing this? And then I'll have all these, another voice in my head saying, you don't need to do this. What's the matter with you? But when I got to the end of it, I got the sickest I've ever been. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I mean, it was bad. And I just this is not worth it. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that again. I don't, because and men are a little different. Sometimes we want to be like, oh, I can do this and I'm tough, and it's an ego thing.
Well, right? I did the same thing. I'm like, okay, I just need to get through these 5 days. And by day 3, I'm like, what am I doing? Is this right? Should I not? And I'm like, oh, but I'm halfway done. Let me just keep going. And I did it. And yeah, I felt great at day 5.
Yeah.
But then after that, when I went back to my regular intermittent fasting, my body was like, I don't know how to break down this food anymore. You were doing this and now you're.
You guys are brave. I eat literally people ask, I eat every 2 to 3 hours. Like I'm like a kid. Like I have a snack. I'm like I can't go without.
Yeah, but you might have a different metabolism too.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? So
exactly.
So I want to go shift gears here and talk about you for a second. I want to go deep for a second because there's a
Let's go deep.
there's a thing called a life continuum, and a lot of kids take up the goals of their parents, and they don't even realize they're doing this. You know, the parents, and especially immigrants, doctor, lawyer, like you mentioned. And you end up on a track that's not your goal, not your dream, right? Because your parents said to, or you know, outside influences. And then you start to get into a phase where you start to resent things and you just don't feel right. And you don't know why. It's all subconscious. And did you take up the goals of your parents becoming a doctor, or was it really your dream?
I think it's more of a generational dream than my dream, but I think the dream evolves because I do love what I do. I mean, I'm a student for life. I've got 5 medical board certifications. I'm just going to learn about the human body and what optimizes it. But yeah, I almost have to look at, all right, I'm not meant to work in a hospital. I'm not meant to sit behind a desk. Like I can take my dream that what I thought being a doctor was and really turn it into something else with my experience.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's where I think really that growth mindset comes in. Because if you're kind of like, oh, I went to school and this is what I'm going to do for my next 30 to 40 years.
Was there a phase where you were like conflicted and you had to go through this thing where like, I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to be in a hospital or whatever, or practice. And then you had to fight through this and then get to the point where you were able to create? Or did you get into a mastermind and then started making you think differently? Like, what was the catalyst?
So I think the catalyst was I'm meant to do something more.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And I think it really came from, you know, when I'm sitting and working in the hospital with my colleagues and I'm like, they're just not getting it. Like I'm having these conversations and
you felt crazy?
Yeah, it almost felt like, oh, why would you think bigger? Why would you think about a bigger mission, about helping more people and really changing people's lives? Like what we're doing here is doing that, but it was on such a smaller scale, right? Yeah. So where now it's the impact that I can make and I have been making. I mean, it doesn't just touch one individual. It touches their family. It touches their community. And that's where I'm like, okay, now I really have something that I can share because, you know, everybody has their own journey and their own experience, but my experience, like from my own medical training, one of the trainings I have is as a pathologist. They usually don't leave the lab. They don't step out from behind their desk. You know, we like our quiet, but that knowledge is foundational for people to experience and understand how their human body works that they wouldn't get from anybody else.
And follow up to this. Sorry, Kinz. I know you usually get a question in here, but I got to ask you this though. When you started to think that way and then you started to make some changes and go in a different direction, what was your environment, the people in your environment like? Closest to you, family members, associates, you know, like.
Yeah. So when I think about it, my father was like, no, you know, just stick with it. It's a stable. You make good money as a doctor. And my mom's like, go follow your dream. You'll figure it out. You always figure it out. Right. So we had this kind of dichotomy, and it really comes down to who are you surrounding yourself with, right? So the 5 people that you're spending the most amount of time with. And that's where, you know, being part of groups where your mind is expanded to what does health look like? What is wellness entrepreneurship? You know, what is your potential? Like every morning, like I literally wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And it's a funny conversation that we have in my household because it's like, oh, okay, when Monisha calls, what is she going to be today? Like I wake up and it's like, I have this idea and I have this idea. And that's what I want to spend my time doing is creating. I'm a very creative person. Like things just come out of my mind that like, I'm like, okay, I just need to do it.
I love that. And you were talking about the opposite of being in a lab because you're a travel expert as well. And you've traveled all over. So tell us about your travels, somewhere we need to experience and something that sticks out in your mind. And then maybe somewhere you want to go or you'll be going next.
Yes, absolutely. So, I have been traveling since the age of 18. I left home at 18. And
where was that, by the way? Where was home?
Home is Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Is that where you were born, Pennsylvania?
No, I wasn't born in Pennsylvania, but I've been in Pennsylvania since the age of 5.
Okay.
So
Okay.
elementary, middle, high school, all of it. Philly kid. So I left when I was 18, went to college, and pretty much didn't really come home, maybe some holidays and stuff. I went abroad and lived abroad in Europe, in Hungary and Poland for 4 years. And even a younger childhood, I was living in the UK. So always traveling. I love other cultures. I'm a total foodie, trying different things. And even from the time I got my first job, you get your vacation days. And most people just take those vacation days and sit at home, right?
Sure.
You would find me in another country. I mean, over 50 countries. I've got a couple passports where. And so part of that was not just going and traveling. It was about having these wellness experiences. You know, I don't know if you're a spa person, but I love a good spa.
Yeah.
So she looked like a spa person. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So
That girl goes to spa. If I saw her and we were walking in that like hotel or something, and I said, that girl must go to spa.
Our hotel house wanted me to check it out.
yes, yeah. So just going and traveling to these beautiful places. First of all, it changes your mindset, right? Just being in different cultures and communicating with other people, it gives you a different perspective. Expands you.
Yeah.
Expands you. It's a total growth mindset to be able to travel. And so, like I said, I've been doing that since I was 18. And then I started going on wellness retreats. And I'm like, oh, okay, instead of just going on a vacation, sitting on a beach, and I'm like, oh, now we can get healthy and learn other things. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I can do this. Like, why not have my own? Because there was always something missing from these retreats. So now I actually do in-person wellness experiences where we kind of take ancient wisdom. So a little background in Ayurveda, a 5,000-year-old whole body system. By the way, the original biohack is Ayurveda, right? So if you think about breath work and you think about mindfulness and using your gut to heal your body, that's Ayurveda. Right.
Wow.
And so I combine Ayurvedic practices in my retreats along with the modern science of biohacking and, using infrared technology, cold plunges and all this kind of stuff. And these are the experiences we create because when people can experience those for just, 5 days, all of a sudden they're like, their mind's opened, right? That, my body can feel good again. When your body and your mind feel good again, then you're like, anything is possible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm unapologetic believer in God. And we were created in the image based on my beliefs and with unbelievable potential. And we're held back, like you said, processed foods, the constant barrage of information and data. And so we're limited. What is it that you see the potentials of human beings being?
Yeah. Well, I think people hold themselves back. I do. I think about it when it comes to my patients and some of the portal messages I get. It's like, it is a lot easier. And I don't think they intentionally want to do it. I don't think people want to be in pain and they want to be sick. I don't think they want to, but it's easier for our body to stay in that space than to check something out and go, oh, okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to wake up not in pain because pain is really created in your mind. And from your stress and your tension. And we all have stress and tension. So how do some people manage it better than others? Because even when I work with my team and I'm like, nobody has more stuff to do in a day than me. Right. And how do I always stay so calm and collected? It didn't happen overnight. I trained myself, just like you were saying with like your golf swing, you train yourself to be better. Right. So I have to train myself to handle all these stressors in my life.
Yeah, so it's the old adage, have hard now, easy later, or easy now and hard later. And I talk to my kids about this all the time, like, oh, Dad, it's hard. Lean into it. Like the window of hardness in the beginning. Relax, Kinz. I apologize. I'm ornery, just saying. But the time of hardness in the beginning is so short compared to the hardness at the end if you do easy first. And it goes across all different aspects of life. It's not just health. So I talk to my kids all the time about lean into hard. Hard's not a bad thing, and so many people, if they could just do this with biohacking, the results would be like amazing. And what do you think the percentage of the population that has to take this up before it spreads like wild, like a lot, like fast. I don't want to use that term.
You know what? The way I see it is one person can make a difference. Like I remember when I was working in the hospital, we'd have pretty much a birthday lunch or something, every single like week there would be something going on, somebody's birthday, and people would be bringing in cookies and bagels and all this stuff. And I'd start bringing in these green juices and fruit salads and all, and it became a thing where it was like, oh, maybe I should bring in something healthier. And it's like you just start making that change and let people kind of discover it on their own. I see the same thing in my neighborhood. I walk my neighborhood. I'm walking the dog every day, and you don't see anybody out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, people are starting to walk now, so you be the example, and then it can spread like wildfire, and anybody can do this.
Yeah. I was taking my kids to the gym. I homeschool my daughter. My son graduated. So we go to the gym in the mornings together. And, sometimes it's like you got to pull them. But we were at the gym one day and they did a great job. And at the end, I said, guys, listen, I want you to know something. People are watching you at all times. I wake up with nobody else in the room besides my wife and assume somebody's watching me. And so that I can make all my thoughts, words, actions, and the people I keep around me in alignment with what I would want people to see. Right. So I told the kids, people are watching you in the gym. There's old people in here. There's young people. They're watching you for inspiration.
Yes.
And you can affect their workout. And so everything you do needs to be like with that, intention that somebody's watching me. I want to inspire people. So the next day we go in there and my son's on this treadmill thing that you run real hard on. And the guy came up to him and said, I wasn't going to run today, but I just saw how hard you're working and now I'm going to go run. And it was like the day after and it was perfect.
And you're like, thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Was learned.
So it's huge. Like what you're saying. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like when I need to get work done and I'm like, I'm just not in the mood. I will go sit in like a coffee shop where other people are working. Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can do this. I can knock this out, right?
Yeah.
So it is. Surround yourself with the right people. Stay away from the people who aren't elevating you, and you will be able to change your life trajectory.
I truly believe. I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he, living from the end. How would my ideal, Mackenzie handle this? And I really feel it. And so I think it's so interesting. You said when people have a sickness or an ailment and they're focusing on that, and they're telling everyone their story over and over again. They're living in that old story. But so if our thoughts can make us sick, then of course our thoughts can make us well.
Absolutely.
I think that's so powerful to tell a new story, right?
Yeah. And you just brought up a concept, I talk a lot about it in my book, The Anatomy of Well-Being.
Yes. Let's hold up her beautiful book.
I was going to get to it.
Beautiful.
Just so you know, I was going to get to it.
Yeah.
I want you to know.
So because you just mentioned something. So I want to talk about this concept of neuroplasticity. And what that basically means is that the brain is pliable, right? So you can develop the brain in whichever way you want, and that's your choice. So what you're saying about like, okay, I want to wake up and I want to be this way, and the thoughts that I'm creating are going to make my reality versus like somebody who has the thoughts of, oh, I got this disease. It's not my fault. That somebody wished this upon me, like not taking any accountability for what's happening. What happens in the brain when you have these repetitious thoughts, same thing happens with gossip, right? If you are always gossiping and you have a very negative mindset, you basically take your brain cells, which are neurons, and you make those connections stronger and stronger, right? So if you're always like the negative person, you're always just miserable, and the conversations you have with other people, it's like that's wildfire, right?
Yeah.
It becomes even easier the next time you have a conversation that is, negative. And it's like, you just go back to it. You go back to it, as opposed to training your brain to become more positive. And there is something to that, right? To making your brain what you want to be. And I think this is where the key is. People got to understand that they can actually change their brain. They can change the way they think. They are, yes.
Yeah, it's power.
They are not stuck the way they are.
When we have that trigger, because I've learned also, like, if you have a trigger because you're reliving that emotion of whatever was happening to you in the past, and we don't want to be stuck in the past. So when you have a trigger or something, brings up what's a good reset? I meditate every morning, 20 minutes, but what's a good in the moment would you say breath work, or if like
Yeah.
someone is triggering you and you're going back to that feeling of like what happened? So how can
Like
you,
when you're driving a car
Yeah.
on the floor.
rage.
Road rage, right? Is that what you're talking about? Road rage? Yeah. I don't know if it's the Jersey drivers, the New York drivers, or the Florida drivers. One
PA for sure.
No.
Like we always see it where we live in Maryland. It's always, my wife says, PA drivers.
Oh no. So I always recommend pattern interruption, right?
Yes. Let's talk about this. Is huge.
Yeah. So
Because you're comfortable and going back to your old,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
so-
you normally do.
So you need to interrupt the pattern. You need to have your go-to. For me, it is breath work. Like just literally, you ever see somebody breathing into, like when they're hyperventilating, breathing into a brown bag? You don't need to do that. All you need to do is stop, pause, take a second, 4 7/8 breath. Just inhale slowly, hold for 7, exhale for 8, right? So
In through your nose, out through your nose.
yeah. So inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. And you can exhale through your mouth. Okay. And just do that a couple
Does that increase
times.
nitric oxide?
Well, what that's doing is it's putting your body into a parasympathetic state. Okay. Instead of your fight and flight, like you're, and this is why when somebody is angry and they're just in that fight and flight, their frontal cortex, which is their rational thinking, does not work. So if anybody's fighting, just walk away from them, because they couldn't, even if they wanted to, solve a problem.
And
with
most
you.
people bang heads with those people.
Absolutely.
And then you don't get anywhere.
No, you don't get
Yeah, yeah,
anywhere,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's a connection in the brain that isn't allowing them to think rationally, right? And so doing this kind of intentional reset with breath work is literally like nobody can even identify if you're doing it, which that's the beauty of it. It's not like you have to sit down in a lotus pose and go meditate, or you got to go do this and that. You can literally do it without anybody seeing that you're doing it.
Anywhere, anytime.
Anywhere, anytime.
Well, we're up against the clock. I want to know what the vision is from here for you. Paint the picture for us. Like if everything worked out perfectly from here on out.
Yeah, I would love to see more people join me on our wellness retreats.
Yes, I'm so interested.
So our next one is in Riviera Maya. We have a couple more international ones coming up in the year. I think it's a great way to reset the mind and body. We're foodies, so this is not like you're going to just be drinking green juice. You're going to have gourmet meals every day.
Yes.
So really kind of resetting that. We have a few products in R&D, so I'm not ready to reveal those yet, but I think they're going to really have a good space for people that they need it. And and then the telehealth clinic is going great. We're changing people's lives. And
where can they go deeper with you? Where's the best place to send?
Yeah, so easy to find me. My website is drbhanote.com. My social media is Dr. Bhanote, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's only one of me.
Love it. And here's the book again. Guys, go check out the book. Dr. Bhanote.
There's only one of her, that
Which
one.
I always have this thing where I always call doctors by their first name. Dr. First name. Dr. Manisha.
Dr. Manisha.
Is that cool with you?
works, Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I do that. I always do that for some reason. But it's been a great time. We want to thank you for your time here.
So
Thank you.
much. We could go
Appreciate
on.
it.
This is
Yeah,
fantastic.
enjoyed the conversation and look forward to doing more with you. And guys, go check her out and make sure you keep coming back to That One podcast. Your boy C-Roc and Kinz signing off for now. Subscribe, tell your friends, family, coworkers about us. Until next time, be that one.